on Chin Music, I want to talk about the Twins infield, Twins ownership, Juan Soto, and Carlos Correa. We'll also do a little booze and blues segment at the end of the show, as we do during every offseason show, just to mix a little pop culture and entertainment in with what isn't always the most entertaining Twins offseason. This is Chin Music. It's our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Today's lineup: LaVelle E. Neal III, baseball guru and columnist at the Star Tribune. I'm Jim Souhan, also from the Star Tribune. Roy Smalley has this week off. We'll catch up with him next week. We have the best sports lineup in town: Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, Kevin Gore, John Krasinski, the Viking Update Show, John Millay, Jeff Diamond, Dawn Mitchell, Randy Shaver's High School Football Show, Mike Grimm, Bar Down Beauties, outdoor content. Check it all out. When you find a show you like, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We are presented to you by OnX Hunt, their hunting and fishing apps. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities and True Vision Institute. All right, LaVelle, let's start with the infield, because I'm craving some real baseball talk, though we'll get to ownership and the other issues around the team. What, at this moment, do you think the infield would look like if the Twins had to play a game tomorrow?
That's a good question, and I think the best, the focus is going to be on first base. Who's going to be the first baseman if they do not bring back Carlos Santana, who won a Gold Glove there last year? The two leading in-house candidates would be Edouard Julien, who, is a second baseman and average at best second baseman. So he's probably profiling toward first base. And you also have Jose Miranda. And I remember when Miranda was at AAA, I was asking what position he's going to play. And they're like, well, they're going to see if he could possibly stick at third, which tells you about his defensive ability. Two bat-first guys who don't have a lot of experience playing first. I think Miranda has some. I don't know if Julian has any. So those would be the two. Royce Lewis admitted during the winter meetings that just concluded that he has been taking grounders at second base, getting used to the position there. I thought it was unfair to him last year to kind of be asked to play there in the middle of the season, having never played there before. And because it wasn't really necessarily an emergency situation. It caught him off guard. And players don't want to go somewhere and suck. He just wanted some reps there so he can get comfortable. And it's not that easy. You got to get used to new positioning, where you're supposed to set up on relays, covering the bag at second, throws from a different side, all that stuff. So he just wanted to work on. So I get that. I do think some of the issues should have been, he should have not complained as much as he did about it. But it gave us stuff to write about. And Brooks Lee, who's got a very strong, has a strong arm as Royce, but is more accurate, will probably slide in at third base. So I'm really curious to see Brooks' first full year in the majors and see how he's adjusted since with the experience he received in 2024. And of course, if they don't trade him, which I'm not sure if they really will or not. You never know. All it takes is one team to be desperate enough for an upgrade to overpay. But, Carlos Correa would be the gold standard at short. Fantastic range, fantastic arm, just skilled, just uber talented there. So we'll be watching to see how first base is going to shape up. Will they bring in someone to play first and just have the DH spot for Miranda and Julian to share, or just let those two have it?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. How do you think the eventual rise of players like Emma Rodriguez and Walker Jenkins will affect that? Do you think one of these players, whether it's Jenkins or somebody else, ends up at first base as a long-term solution?
Well, there could be a spot available in the outfield. Manuel Margot's not going to be brought back. You got two lefty corner outfielders in Larnach and Matt Wallner. Both those gentlemen, Walker and Rodriguez, could play the outfield. But, if first base is available, one of those guys can slide in there. You bring up an interesting point. Do they just go into the season without bringing in a first baseman, and then once Jenkins and Rodriguez get some more experience, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see both of those guys debut next year. Rodriguez got to AAA last year. Jenkins got to AA toward the end of the year. And once you get to AA, you got a shot at major league career. You got a shot at being in the majors within the year or so. So, with those guys in the mix, they have bodies to shuffle around. And when you have the DH spot, you can kind of rotate between DH, first base, and the corner outfield spot with a bunch of those guys and Julian and Miranda. So they very well could go about it that way, especially when they don't have a lot of financial flexibility to bring in other people. It's weird because so many relatively young players. You think about this guy. I don't think Wallner has 3 years of experience. Larnach just might have that much. Royce Lewis has been up, but he hasn't played 3 full seasons yet. Lee just debuted last year. You have a bunch of guys with 0 to 3 years of experience on the roster this coming season. It's going to be interesting. And it's potentially exciting to see how this young talent progresses.
Yeah, and one of the mistakes I made last year was assuming that Wallner was ready to be an impact player. And he ended up coming back and being great second half, but he wasn't ready right at the beginning. And I thought with Julian's approach and the way he performed at the end of 2022, I thought he was ready to make an impact, and he was terrible. So it's nice. There's nothing more fun in baseball, and I'm guilty of this all the time, of projecting, how good a young player is going to be, but you just don't know.
The thing about Julian, too, is that we saw Robbie Grossman up here take so many strike 3 calls, and he still ended up being a halfway decent, effective player, enough that the Rangers had him on the World Series team a couple years ago. But Julian, he takes so many calls, strike 3s. He's got a great swing, and he can hit the off field, and he's got to put it in play here. I don't mind him being patient. I don't mind the walks. If he just brings the strikeouts down 5%, 8%, I think that would change his whole offensive profile. I hope he's in a mode to do that this year.
Yeah, and you also bring up another really interesting point about first base DH could be your clearinghouses. One day Buxton's your DH, the next day your backup first baseman's the DH, whatever. You can cycle people through there, and obviously the ideal is to have somebody like Carl Santana, who's a great fielder and can bat. Can drive in some runs in the 6 or 7 hole. But if you don't have that, you might be better off playing Willie Castro. So let's look at this. Let's ask you this. You have Brooksley available to play second, short, third. You have Castro who can play second, short, third. What about Royce Lewis to first base?
I hadn't considered that one. Anything's possible. I look at Royce's athleticism. I like to have it in play in the middle of the field, I think, instead of the corner infield spots. If you want to move Royce around, I'd put him in the outfield. Let's see if he can hold there with some more experience. Of course, the last time he tried to play in the outfield, he ended up breaking his knee. But I think that was like his 5th game ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in center. I could see him being a corner outfielder.
Yeah, but, man, the athleticism, third base, the hot corner, I thought was a good fit for him. I think second base could be a great fit for him. His agent, Scott Boras, who, is skilled with these things, thinks he could be a Ryan Sandberg, and that should be tantalizing for Twins fans to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like first base would just be kind of a waste. And Jim, I don't know if I'm crazy for saying this, but I always thought that it was too convenient to move Joe Mauer to first base when they decided again for the catcher spot. I think he would have been great at third base with his reflexes and that arm of his. I kind of think he was wasted at first, but I don't know. Maybe at that stage of your career, coming off the concussions, that maybe first base was the best spot for him. But when I see an athlete like Royce, I like to see him put him in a spot where he uses athleticism the best. So, if I had to, first base, yeah, but I prefer to have him at second or third.
Yeah, I get that. And that's one thing I don't like to see. I don't like to see a good arm wasted at first base.
Right.
It's kind of a shame to see Sano. So for all Sano's flaws, he had an amazing arm, and I hated to see it at first base. That's why I wouldn't want to see Wallner at first base, because he has an amazing arm.
No, that's a really good point. Sano, just because of his size and his and his ability. Well, I don't want to say he was a plotter, but his footwork wasn't the greatest. So I think he needed to be at first base.
Yeah.
But yeah, that arm, you see that arm strength and you get excited about it. You want to see it at positions where it can be in play more. The right field experiment didn't work out for Miguel either. So I'm curious to see where he ends up this year. I think the Angels let him go. So I wonder if he's going to get another chance to latch on with someone. But yeah, first basemen have come in all shapes and sizes. You have some big hulking people, like C.J. Cron, who was with the Twins a few years ago. Having grown up in Chicago, I've seen Mark Grace in the clubhouse before, the skinniest man with no muscle definement at all. He was a first baseman. So, I think Nick Punto plays some first base for the Twins. So they come in all shapes and sizes. Luis Arias, another one.
Yeah, very interesting that Luis Arias might be on the trade block again. Everybody loves to get him, and everybody's like, after they have him a while, go, okay, he's great at what he does, but he only does one thing.
Right. Plus, he doesn't play. He's not a defensive guy.
He's not a good defensive guy, and I also think people look at his body and say, he's just not going to last.
I got in arguments with people who just loved Luis Arias, and they were furious at the Pablo Lopez trade. I was like, you have a chance to trade a guy who's one-dimensional. He doesn't run. He doesn't throw well. He doesn't play defense well, but he hits. He has a hit tool. He does hit for power. He's a one-tool guy. And to get a pitcher who's going to be at least the number 2 on your staff, you make that trade any day of the week. And it turned out great. And the contract they signed him to looks better and better now. Corbin Burns is about to sign for about $250 million.
Yes.
Max Fried just signed for $218. Lopez gets a raise to $18 million this year, and that is a steal based on his ability.
No doubt about it. He's got to pitch better this year, but my guess is with his character, work ethic, and their analytics, they'll figure something out, and he'll be better this year.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to the ownership. Soto, Correa, and Booze and Blues here in a second. I want to remind you we're coming from the Aquarius Home Services studio. I also want to let you know that ice fishing is here, and it's time to hit the frozen water with OnX Fish. The Fish app is the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on ice. Use OnX Fish to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. OnX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. For a limited time, download OnX Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin, or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information on the app that is changing the game on ice. Also want to tell you more about Aquarius Home Services, long-standing title sponsor of TalkNorth.com.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. The holiday season is here. Time for family gatherings and enjoying a cozy, comfy home with loved ones. But is your furnace ready for the colder temps? Don't let a faulty furnace spoil your celebrations. At Aquarius, we've got your back. For just $29, our Furnace Peak Performance Check provides that seasonal health check every system needs this time of year. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Well, you know more about a great Minnesota company I keep hearing great things about from my friends and associates in the business world, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
Finally, we want you to hear what John Krasinski's experience has been with True Vision Institute.
Yeah, True Vision in Bloomington. I was talking to someone at the Timberwolves game against the Hornets, and they were asking me about it. And they had also had LASIK surgery as well. And it was, the term that we both have used, and I've used it on the show, is life changing. It really is. And you're going to roll your eyes at it. Maybe if you're wearing contacts and eyeglasses, you're going to say, yeah, right. I did the same thing. I was skeptical of it. I was like, it can't be that good. But I went to True Vision. I visited with the nicest, most friendly staff there that put me through the paces, got me to the right answer and the right option for my vision correction, and then got me to Dr. Chu, who did an unbelievable job with the surgery itself. It does make your life so much easier, not having to go in every year, every 2 years for new glasses and new contacts, spending hundreds of dollars, getting the eye exam, trying to find what's the fashionable frames nowadays. All of those things. It's a headache. And I do not have that anymore because I got LASIK at True Vision. It took me not even half of a day to recover from the surgery. And by the time I woke up the next morning, I was seeing clearly and crisply, and everything was great. So go into Chew Vision or go to chewvision.com to set up your consultation and tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you.
All right, LaVelle, any update on the ownership situation, the sale?
Just a little bit. There definitely has been interest. There's been a lot of interest. There's teams there's groups that definitely want in, and there's groups that are still kicking the tires and trying to figure out if they want to get in. But there's an increasing confidence that they're going to have viable buyers. It may take until early next year for the Twins to get a real clear view of who are the main competitors to purchase the team, but they're confident that it's headed in the right direction. So, and for those of you who thought that the Twins could have new owners before the season begins, I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of hurdles have to be cleared before that to happen. And Major League Baseball owners have to sign off on the transaction as well. I would say maybe by the end of the 2025 season, they could have a new owner. But based on my recent conversations, it sounds like they're pleased with how the process is going.
Interesting. And let's wrap the other big baseball news into this baseball news. We don't know exactly when or if the Twins are going to sell or what the price might end up being. It does stun me that you have Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani now with contracts that total probably more than the Twins will sell for.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, Ohtani at 700 and Juan Soto signs for 756, I believe. Here's what I can't believe. The separator was apparently the Yankees would not pay for a suite on the road. And Steve Cohen heard that and said, "What? All right, I'll pay for your suite on the road every game." Yeah, and so apparently that was one of the deciding factors in Soto signing with the Mets. It's crazy where this is headed. People have been afraid of Steve Cohen ever since he took over the Mets because the hedge fund manager is not afraid to push the financial envelope. He did that a couple years ago when he had paid for DeGrom and he had Max Scherzer. But when things went haywire, he's able to find teams to trade him to and was able to stay under the severe luxury tax hit. So I guess he's willing to do it here with Soto. It's crazy. And I wrote about this in today's Star Tribune. It was just 24 years ago today. Everybody was reeling from A-Rod signing him for $252 million with the Rangers, which funny, the same winter meetings, same location, same hotel as the one that Juan Soto agreed to his deal with. But people predicted the end of baseball when A-Rod's deal was announced. Baseball's still here. The money is still ridiculous. Owners can't stop themselves from outspending other owners. But baseball's not going anywhere. They got some financial issues they need to take care of. They've got to figure out the whole streaming television situation. They've got to turn their revenue streams upside down in terms of being more driven by national revenue to being more driven by local revenue in terms of each team and in terms of what the owners share. So that's got to get flipped upside down here for the next few years. You're going to see a lot of interesting stuff in baseball over the next 2 to 3 years because the CBA is coming up here in 2026. And in 2028, a bunch of TV deals are going to expire. And that's where you're going to see a shift to bundling everybody's local TV deal into one big package and profiting off of that. But and teams have been forced to do this. The local – like the Yes Network, they're losing money. Well, I don't say they're losing money now, but the value is dropping because people are unplugging. They're not sticking with DirecTV. They're not sticking with Xfinity. And it's sending shockwaves across the industry. And so teams are realizing they have to stick together on this and present themselves as one big package. And that's how you get the highest bids. So it's going to be – we're headed to some change here in the next couple of years.
It's almost as if the NFL has a good model, where you actually all work together and make a lot of TV money and everybody's rich and nobody can just outspend their competition.
No, it's amazing how Pete Rozelle was able to talk the owners into socialism, basically, back in the 60s. And the NFL has flourished ever since. I think they're up to, $18 billion, $20 billion industry? Baseball just got to 12. And they're coming off the year in which the 3 of the top 4 biggest spenders reached the Final Four. And number 1 and number 3 in terms of payroll made the World Series. But you have to admit, football is such a great spot because basically teams are exposed for being mismanaged. If you make mistakes, you can't buy your way out of it. That's why teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears have been horrible for years because of bad management, not because they're not spending a lot of money, but because they can't put together the right organization. I think that's the way it should be.
It's the way it should be. It's baseball. I'm actually becoming less of a baseball fan just because of the financial structure. And here's go back to the big picture in Soto. What two consistent things have been true since well before A-Rod's deal? I mean, we're talking back when Puckett was the highest paid player in the game, making $60 million a year in the early 90s. Two things are true. The owners are always telling us how hard their financial situation is, and the salaries are always going up exponentially. If somebody can pay Juan Soto $750 million a year, then that just tells you how much money's in the game.
Yeah, no doubt. And even if teams like the Rays, I don't think they ever had to pay over $150 million. But they've had a good organization. They've been able to produce good players. The fact that they still, the question is, okay, why are they in baseball if you can't have a $150 million payroll? Well, because the franchise value is going up. And so in about 10 years, you can get like a 400% return on your initial investment. So that's what makes owning a sports team so lucrative, because if you sit on it for about 15 years, you have an incredibly valuable asset. Look at the Twins. Carl bought the team for what, $84 million? Is that right?
Something like that.
And now they're worth $1.5 billion. That's why you buy these assets and hold on to them.
Yep, you and I should put together a bid.
No doubt. Yeah, I'll go break my piggy bank open here and put my pennies together and see if I can at least get a call back.
Speaking of big money, Carlos Correa. Boris told Bobby Nightingale and other reporters at the winter meetings. So Bobby Nightingale's our beat writer with the Star Tribune, does a great job for us. That basically Correa's happy. There's good fishing up here. He likes being here. I don't doubt that to be true. I also don't think the Twins would be able to trade him for the right kind of return. So I just don't think they're going to trade him.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, anything can happen in baseball. All it takes is one desperate team or someone who didn't land someone like Soto who still wants an upgrade. But $36 million, complete no trade clause. And that's the thing. He has a complete no trade clause, Jim. What does that tell you? For him to waive that no trade clause, he's going to want a contract extension.
Yep.
That's that is for darn certain of that. That the only way he's going to trade that, waive that clause is for more money. And who's going to be willing to give Carlos Correa, who's had plantar fasciitis in each of the last 2 seasons, a raise from $36 million a year? So the likelihood of that seems to be not very high.
I agree completely. All right. Let's get to our Booze and Blues segment. It's always great to have Roy involved with this because he's so into music and has great taste in liquor as well. LaVelle, let's see. Do you have something you want to bring up? Because I have one I can bring up if you don't have a subject.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to watch. I may go watch the Bob Dylan movie as soon as the first day it's released, which I believe is Christmas Day. I have to admit, as a younger human being, in order for me to be attracted to a song, it had to be a banger. I had to have a great beat, a great sound. Lyrics were second or third on my list in terms of what turned me on to music. So when I moved here, I knew about Bob Dylan. I knew about the songs. I knew that he was with the Traveling Wilburys for a while. But coming here and listening to his songs more in depth, one of the most brilliant songwriters of all time. I didn't realize he lyricized the civil rights movement as well as he did. I didn't know that the Nobel. Well, I knew he had a Nobel Peace Prize, and I didn't know that the Pulitzer Committee gave him a special citation. I didn't realize that. He may be the most interesting and most talented singer-songwriter of all time. And so I am going to run to the theater to watch his movie the movie on his life when it comes out on Christmas Day, so I can get even a better understanding of the impact this man made on the music industry.
Okay, so I will add to that note, that's a very good one, and he is the greatest songwriter in American history. I would say if you are interested in Dylan, I would go check out the tribute concert that a bunch of people threw together at the Madison Square Garden, I don't know, 40 years ago, something like that. It's great. It's G.E. Smith on guitar, Steve Cropper on guitar, and basically Chrissie Hynde, John Mellencamp, Ronnie Wood, Eric Clapton.
Wow.
The band, all the greats come up and play their favorite Dylan song and roll through, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and then if you have a subscription, well, first of all, you don't have a subscription to Star Tribune, you should get one.
Yes,
because we have terrific coverage across the state of Minnesota,
and with great music writers.
Exactly, but today Myron Metcalf wrote a column about what Bob Dylan meant to him. Basically, he was singing my song for me about his experience learning about Dylan and coming to realize how great he was.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's great to have Matt Myron working with us as well. Good stuff, LaVelle. Enjoyed it. We'll catch up next week. And stay healthy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too.